alerting a table, the altering a table. The alter table statement has two purposes. First, it can add a single column to an existing table. Second, it can add drop active or deactivate primary and foreign key constraints. A base table can be altered by adding one new column which appear to the right of existing columns. The format of the command is alter table base table at columns data type. Notice that there is no optional, not null clause for column definition with alter table. It is not allowed because the alter table statement automatically fills the additional column with null in every case. If you want to add multiple columns, you repeat the command. Alter table does not permit changing the width of a column or amending a column's date type. It can be used for deleting an unwanted column. Alter table stock at stack rating chair. Alter table is also used to change the status of referential constraints. You can deactivate constraints on a table's primary key or any of its foreign keys. Deactivation also makes the relevant tables unavailable to all users except the table's owner or someone processing database management authority. After the data are loaded, referential constraints must be reactivated before they can be automatically enforced again. Activating the constraints enables the DBMS to validate the references in the data. Dropping a table. A base table can be deleted at any time by using the drop statement. The format is the drop table base table. Dropping a view. Drop view is used to delete a view from the system catalog. A view may be dropped because it needs to be redefined or is no longer used. It must be dropped first before a revised version of the view is created. The syntax is drop view views. Remember, if a base table is dropped, all views based on the table are also dropped. Creating an index. An index helps speed up retrieval. A more detailed discussion of indexing is covered later in this book. A column that is frequently referred to in a where clause is a possible candidate for indexing. For example, if data on stocks were frequently retrieved using stk farm, then this column should be considered for an index. The format for create index is create unique index name on base table column order cluster. This next examples illustrates use of create index. Create unique index stk farm index on stock stk farm. In the preceding example, an index called stk farmindex is created for the table stock. Index entries are ordered by ascending the default order values of stk farm. The optional clause unique specifies that no two rows in the base table can have the same value for stk farm. The indexed column specifying unique means that the DBMS will reject any insert or update operation that would create a duplicate value for stk farm. A composite index can be created from several columns, which is often necessary for an associative entity. The following example illustrates the creation of composite index. Create index line item index on line item line cell dropping an index. Indexes can be dropped and at any time by using the drop index statement. The general form of this statement is drop index data manipulation. SQL supports 4 DML statements: select, insert, update, and delete. Each of these will be discussed in turn, with most attention focusing on select because the variety of OS in which it can be used. First, we need to understand why we must qualify column names and temporary names. Qualifying column names. Ambiguous reference to column names are avoided by qualifying a column name with its table name, especially when the same column name is used in several tables. Clarity is maintained by prefixing the column name with the table name. The following example demonstrates qualification of the netcode. which appears in both stock and nation. Select from stock nation where stock netcode equal nation netcode. Temporary names. A table or view can be given a temporary names or alias that remains current for a query. Temporary names are used in a self-join to uh, distinguish the copies of the table. Select WRK emp name from EMP work EMP boss where WRK POSSNO equal boss empono. A temporary name also can be used as a shortened, 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 shortened form of a long table name. For example, I might be used merely, merely to avoid having to enter line item for then once. If a temporary name is specified for a table or view, any qualified reference to a column of the table or view must also use the temporary name. The select statement is by far the most interesting and challenging of the four DML statements. It reveals a major benefit of the relational model: powerful interrogation capabilities. It is challenging because mastering the power of select requires considerable practice with a wide range of queries. The major varieties of select are presented in this section. The SQL playbook, which follows this chapter, reveals, reveals the full power of the command. The general format of select is: select distinct items from tables where condition group by columns having condition ordered by columns. Product. Product, or more strictly Cartesian product, is a fundamental operation of relational algebra. It is rarely used by itself in a query. However, understanding its effects helps in comprehending join. The product of two tables is a new table consisting of all rows of the first table con- uh, concatenate with all possible rows of the second table. For example, from the product of stock and nation, select from stock nation. The new table contains 64 rows, 16 into 4, where stock has 16 rows and nation has 4 rows. New STK decimal 8, update STK time, time stamp not null, primary key, update STK time. The tiger writes a record to stock long every time an update is made to stock. Use is made of two virtual tables, old and new, to access the prior and current values of stock price. Old raw STK price and new raw STK price and stock quantity. Old raw STK price and new raw STK price. The insert statement also writes the stocks identifying code and the time of the transaction. Create trigger stock updates after update on stock for each row. Begin insert into stock log values. Old STK code, old STK price, new STK price, old STK quoting, new style, current timestamp. End. Skill builder. Why is the primary key of stock log not the same is that of stock? Notes must ado about missing information. Rules must ado about missing information. Rules are overworked in SQL because they can represent several situations. Null can represent unknown information. For example, you might you might add you might it you might add a new stock to the database but lacking details of its latest dividend. You leave the field null. Null can be used to represent a value that is inapplicable. For instance, the employee table contains the null value in Bosnia for Alice because she has no boss. The value is not unknown. It is not applicable for that field. In other cases, null mean no value supplied or value undefined undefined. Because null can have multiple meanings, the user must infer which meaning is appropriate to the circumstance. Do not confuse null with blank or zero, which are values. In fact, null is a marker that specifies that the value for the particular column is null. Thus, null represents no value. The oil known database expert Chris Date has been outspoken in this concern about the confusion caused by nulls. His advice is that nulls should be explicitly avoided by specifying not null for all columns and by using quotes to make the meaning of a value clear, e.g. U means unknown, I means implicable, and means not supplied. Security. Data are a valuable resource for nearly every organization. Just as an organization takes just as an organization takes measure to protect its physical assets, it also needs to safeguard its electronic assets, its organizational memory, including database. Furthermore, it often wants to limit the access of authorized users to particular parts of a database and restrict their action to particular operation. Two SQL features are used to administer security procedures. A view discussed earlier in this chapter can restrict a client access to specified columns or rows in a table, and authorization commands can establish a user's privileges. The authorization subsystem is based on the concept of a privilege, the authority to perform an operation. For example, a person cannot update a table unless she has been granted the appropriate update privilege. The database administrator DBA is a master of universe and has the highest privilege. The DBA can perform any legal operation. The creator of an object, say a base table, has full privilege for that object. Those with privilege can then use grant and revoke commands included in SQLs. Data control language DCL to extend privilege to or rescind them from other users. Grant, the grant command defines a user's privilege. The general format of the statement is grant privilege on object to users with grant option. Where privilege can be a list of privileges or the keyword all privileges, and users is a list of user identifiers or the keyword public. An object can be a base table or a view. The following privilege can be granted for tables and views: select, update, delete, and insert. The update privilege specifies the particular columns in a base table or view that may be updated. Some privileges apply only to base tables. These are alter and index. The following examples illustrate the use of grant. Give allies all rights to the stock table. Grant all privileges on stock to allies. Permit the accounting staff, Todd and Nancy, to update the price of a stock. Grant update STK price on stock to Todd Nancy. Give all staff the privilege to select rows from item. Grant select on to item to public. Give allies all rights to views. The with grant option clause. The with grant option command allows a client to transfer his privilege to another client as these next examples illustrates. Give Ned all privilege for the item table and permit him to grant any of his two other staff members who may need to work with item. Grant all privilege on item 2. Need with grant option. This means that need can now use the grant command to give other staff privilege. To give Andrew permission for select and insert on item. For example, Ned would enter. Grant select, insert on time to Andrew. Revoke. What what granteth, revoke revoketh. Privileges are removed using the revoke statement. The general format of this statement is revoke privileges on object from users. This example illustrates the use of revoke, remove, remove Spohis ability to select from item, revoke select on item for Sophie. Sophie. Nancy is no Nancy is no longer permitted to update stock prices. Revoke update on stock from Nancy. Cascading revoke. When a revoke statement removes a privilege, it can result in more than one revocation. An earlier examples illustrate how need used is with grant option. Right to authorize Andrew to select and insert rows on time. The following revoke command revoke insert on time from need automatically revokes Andrew's insert privilege. The system catalogs. The system catalog catalog describes a relational database. It contains the definition of base tables, views, indexes, and so on. The catalog itself is a relational database and can be interrogated using SQL. Tables in the catalog are called systems tables. No distinguish them from database tables through conceptually. These tables are the same. In MySQL, the system catalog is called information schema. Some important systems tables in the schema are tables and columns, and these are used in the following examples. Note that the name of the system catalog tables vary with DBMS implementation. So will the following examples illustrate use of system catalog tables is likely that you will have to change the table names for other DBMs.